Hi guys and welcome to Fandom Newbie. My name is Shruti and today I'm going to be talking about my absolute favorite genre in the bookish world, and that is fantasy. Now, I absolutely love fantasy fiction books. It's been my favorite genre since I was a kid. Like, nothing brings me more joy than escaping into a new world, discovering like a new magic system, just like uncovering the politics of the world. And yeah, like it's the best form of escapism for me. I absolutely love it. And today I have 15 books that I want to recommend to you guys, which have given me that joy of escaping into a completely new world and discovering new things. And so, yeah, I want to share that with you guys. Without further ado, let's just get started. The first book that I want to talk about is The Adventures of Amina Elsafi by Shannon Chakraborty. Now, this is the same author that wrote the Dad Trilogy, which I absolutely love. And I think that she is just really good at writing Middle Eastern inspired fantasy. I loved this book. I flew through this book. It was so fun. So this book is about a female pirate who is like notorious for being just this absolutely like cutthroat person who murders and plunders, and she has no morals, and she's also a little bit promiscuous because she's had like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 husbands. Basically, this pirate, Amina Al-Sarafi, has now gone into retirement. She has become a mother and she has stopped her pirating ways until she gets another sort of job that she has to do, and that sort of brings her out of her retirement and she goes on this one last adventure. Again, like I said, this is like Middle Eastern fantasy, so there are a lot of things which are very relatable to Indians. There are quite a few Indian characters in this as well, and it's just a really fun story that you will absolutely fly through. I love this, so definitely check out The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. Keeping up with the theme of like feminist fantasy adventures, the next book that I want to talk about is The Adventures of Salt and Fortune by Ni Wo. As you can see, it is extremely thin, but even in like, how many pages was this? This was like 100 and something pages. Even in the 114 pages that this story is, there is so much world building and so much lore that Ni Wo has built into the story, and that's what makes it just so fascinating to read. Now, this is set in a sort of ancient Chinese empire, and basically, there is this woman who has kind of been forced to become, like, forced to marry the king of this empire, and it's basically to forge a sort of political alliance, and she's had this kind of like loveless marriage, and then she gives birth to like his heir, the king's heir, and after that the king banishes this empress, and basically the entire story is about how this empress then exacts revenge on the empire and this king and everyone who has wronged her. If you like feminist fantasy, you will absolutely love this because the main characters in this are just like fierce women who want to take back what is rightfully theirs. So I absolutely loved it. Definitely check it out. It's a very short book, so you'll finish it in half a day. Again, keeping up with the theme of feminist fantasy, I feel like that's a theme that's going to be running through all these books. Maybe not all, but like a lot of them. But keeping up with the theme of feminist fantasy, again, the next book that I want to recommend is Cersei by Madeline Miller. Now, Cersei's story that like everyone knows is that she's basically banished by Zeus to go live on this island, where then she like lures sailors and men towards her island and then turns them into pigs. That's the story of Cersei that I knew. And of course, that part of the story is there in this book. But what this book does is that it really humanizes Cersei. Like, I remember Cersei being kind of like this villain because she would like lure men onto her island and then like sort of seduce them and then turn them into pigs. But this book basically uncovers the reason why she does that, all of the childhood trauma and basically daddy issues that she has. And again, it's woven into this beautiful story told from Cersei's perspective. So it's kind of like this autobiography of sorts that she's writing about her life. And yeah, again, it has beautiful writing that Madeline Miller is known for. I think it gives a fresh perspective on a tale that's not like center stage of Greek mythology. Yeah, it's beautifully written. If you like Greek mythology, definitely check out this book. The next book that I want to talk about is Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. Now, this book I have spoken about in the past in one of my videos. I think this book is great for beginners, and Neil Gaiman has done a wonderful job of bringing all of the Norse myths together in a very easily digestible way. Now, the Norse myths include like stories of Thor and Loki and Odin. So I love Loki. Like, I absolutely adored Loki's character, and I guess that has to do more with the fact that I have a crush on Tom Hiddleston than actually Loki. But yeah, I just love that character a lot, and so I was really excited to read this because this is the source material that the Marvel comics are based on. I liked seeing how different these characters are compared to what they are portrayed in like Marvel comics, and I also really enjoyed the stories. Like, there's one story of Loki and a horse, which is very interesting, and yeah, I absolutely enjoyed reading this book. So if you like Marvel and you like mythology, I think you should definitely check out Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. The next book that I want to talk about is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This book is another one of my all-time favorite books. 5 out of 5 stars. I fell in love with this book. And the one thing that you should know about Andy Weir's writing is that he is so funny. His humor is fantastic. He did that with The Martian as well, and he's done it with Project Hail Mary. And the second thing you should know about Andy Weir's writing is that he writes very lovable characters. And the main character of Project Hail Mary is also just, I love him, I want to protect him, and he was just such a treat to read about. So this story follows our main character, Ryland Grace, who wakes up essentially in his space shuttle to find all of the other crew members dead, and he is the sole survivor. Now, being the sole survivor, the entire mission rests on his shoulders because this crew had been sent out into space to find a solution to save Earth. And now that burden lies only on Ryland Grace's shoulders. So he needs to basically find out the solution to save Earth and then stay alive to get back so that he can save humanity. So yeah, that's pretty heavy. But even though like the entire subject matter is quite heavy, the way that Andy Weir weaves this story is in such a light-hearted, fun, sarcastic, funny, and heartwarming manner that it doesn't feel so heavy when you're reading this book. Now, one thing I would like to mention about this book is that it is very science heavy. There are pages of like scientific calculations and explanations, and it gets very deep into the science of like what Ryland Grace is trying to do. But trust me, as someone who isn't that into physics and maths and science, that didn't take away from just the joy that I experienced in reading this book, and the witty, sarcastic sense of humor and just the heartwarming nature of this book. So if that science bit is what is not like is persuading you against reading this book, this is me telling you, forget about the science part. You can skip it. You can like skim read it if you want, but read this book because it is just absolutely amazing. The next book that I want to talk about is Tequila Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. Now, this seems to be a trend in like booktube in the West and book talk in general, and that is fantasy romances are very popular. And so this, my friends, is a really nicely written fantasy romance, because essentially this is a retelling of The Little Mermaid, and I absolutely loved it. The two main characters, Princess Lyra and Prince Elian, basically Ariel and Eric, is his name Eric? I'm completely blanking who the prince is in The Little Mermaid, but whatever. Basically them. And the thing that I loved about this book is just the banter between these two main characters. The banter is so good. Like the way they like sort of feed off of each other's energies, the back and forth, the quips, the flirting, the sexual tension. so good in this book. And along with the romance, there's also a lot of adventure, like out at sea, discovering different lands in the kingdom. And yeah, it's a really, really fun book if you like pirates, if you like sea adventures, and you love good banter in a romance. Definitely check this book out. The next book that I want to talk about is Hench by Natalie Zena Walshotz. Yes, I think that's how you pronounce her name. If you have watched The Boys on Amazon Prime, you know that like really twisted superhero like show, then you will really like Hench, because this is another really twisted superhero book. Now, this follows our main character Anna, who is basically kind of like the data analyst slash market research slash social media marketing person for one of the world's most dangerous supervillains. So yeah, basically what this book does is that it gives us this inside look into the world of superheroes and supervillains. And what I love about it is that this entire world is kind of corporate. Like, you have these people who go about doing like research, like data research and analysis for these villains, and then help them with their schemes. So it kind of feels like the corporate world. Like, being a super villain is kind of like the brand, and then you have these like corporate people behind him telling him what to do. It's really strange. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a very, very interesting take on like this world of superheroes and supervillains, and what it means to be a hero and what it means to be a villain, and where those lines kind of get blurred, because is a superhero really a hero and is a villain really a villain? Like, what does it mean to be one of those? And the grayness of like being a hero or being a villain. And if you like superheroes and if you want to like have this very unique take on the genre that's not the very like clear cut heroes are good, villains are bad, but something that's a bit gray and in between, then definitely check out Hench. It's really, really interesting, and I had a wonderful time reading this book. The next book that I want to talk about is A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. This book is just so cozy, and it is like a warm blanket that you wrap around yourself, and it just feels like a warm hug. And honestly, if you're going through a quarter life crisis, like if you're anywhere between the ages of 25 to 35 and you're going through a quarter life crisis, this is the book for you. I guarantee it will make you feel heard, it will make you feel seen, and it will just give you that warm hug that you need. So yeah, what this book is about is it's basically set in a sort of post-apocalyptic world where humans relied a lot on technology, and so we built a lot of robots to take care of everything. And then at one point, these robots essentially gained consciousness, and so they realized that they are kind of just being like slaves for humanity, and so they have left. And now humans have built a world where they have to rely on things apart from technology. And so they've adapted and they've evolved, and they've built kind of like this world which is technology free. Now, in this world, we follow our main character, who is a monk, and they basically are also in this stage of quarter life crisis, I feel, where they don't know what they want to do. And essentially, they escape from whatever job that they are doing, and they go into nature to try to find themselves again. And they stumble upon a robot. And this robot is as interested in humanity and understanding what humans want and what humans need. And so through this interaction with the robot discovers more about humanity, but the monk discovers more about themselves and their happiness. And the robot and monk just sort of help each other. And it is just such an amazing book. And yeah, it's just a balm for the soul, and it will make you feel heard and seen. The next book that I want to talk about is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. Now, this is a horror story, and I don't read a lot of horror, but I really, really liked this book. So this follows our main character Olivia, who is 16 years old, and she is an orphan, and she is left on the basically the front door of this school, which she absolutely hates. Like, she is bullied over there, and she just doesn't fit in, and she doesn't like where she is. And one day she receives a letter from her uncle saying that she actually has family, and they call her into the family house, which is Gallant. But once Olivia gets there, she realizes that her family has been haunted their entire lives. There are some creepy, spooky things that are going on, and there are a lot of secrets that her family has kept from her. And so, this book is basically an exploration of this orphan girl's heart, essentially, in trying to find a place that she can call home, what it means to be family, and yeah, just her journey in discovering more about her past, more about her family, and finding a place where she truly belongs. And it's told through this horror, creepy story genre, and it's just really, really beautifully done. I thoroughly enjoyed reading this book. It is very creepy and spooky in parts. I did get a few nightmares while I was reading this book, but it is just very, very beautifully written. It's super atmospheric, super creepy, and the message of home and family is just very, very beautiful. So definitely check this book out. The next book that I want to talk about is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I have spoken about this book quite a few times on this channel, but I just absolutely adore it, and so I'm recommending it again. If you haven't read The Night Circus, what are you doing? Please go read it. It is absolutely beautiful. Essentially, this story follows the rivalry between two magicians, and they're sort of competing in this competition to see whose magic is better than the other. But then what happens is that these two rivals fall in love, and so it's the perfect enemies to love kind of love story. And it is set, the thing about this book that makes it absolutely beautiful, apart from this love story that's going on, is the setting for this love story, because it is all set in this absolutely magical, wonderfully described circus that appears in different cities and different towns at night. And it is this circus which makes this book so, so amazing, because the circus itself is kind of like a character in the book. The circus, as it moves through different towns, and as these magicians sort of keep casting their spells and doing things, evolves. The circus grows and changes and evolves, and is just so beautifully described. It makes you want to be a part of this book. It makes you want to meet these characters and experience this circus with them. So yeah, if you like books that you can just escape into, books that are just that describe a place so well that it feels real, if you like those kind of books, then definitely check out The Night Circus. Speaking of atmospheric books, the next book that I want to talk about is Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Now, this is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, and again, this is one of the most atmospheric books that I have ever read. If you want to read a book that really makes you feel the chills of winter, and that even though you're sitting in Bombay in the heat that will make you feel a little cold, read this book, because it is the way that winter and snow and ice is described in this book does really give you chills. It is so, so, so well done. Now, this book has 2 or 3 different points of views, but it essentially has 2 main characters. One named Miriam, who has been kidnapped by this sorcerer of sorts, the sorcerer who lives in an ice castle, and she's forced to be his bride. And then the second one is Irina, who is also forced to be the bride of an evil czar. And basically how the lives of these two women sort of intertwine, and how they help each other get out of these really bad situations that they have found themselves in. Like I said, if you like very atmospheric books, then definitely check this out. And again, if you like fierce female characters, also definitely check this book out. The next book that I want to talk about is The Liberation of Sita by Volga. Now, this book was originally written in Telugu, and I read the English translation. So if you speak Telugu, then please read the original book, like the original book, because the reason why I give this book 4 stars and not the complete 5 is that the translation is a little bit clunky in this book, I feel. But regardless, it was a treat to read. Now, this book basically highlights the stories of women who have been wronged in the Ramayana. So it's a retelling of these women's stories. So of course you have Sita, then there is Ahilya, there is Urmila, who is Sita's sister, I believe, and then there is Shurpankha. So all of these women's stories are highlighted in this book, and it's them kind of reclaiming their stories and talking about the things that they went through during the course of the Ramayana, and basically how they've come out stronger even though these injustices have been done to them. And one of my problems with the Forest of Enchantments is that I felt that even though it was supposed to be the Ramayana from Sita's point of view, Ram was still the main character in that book. Like, it just, like, it was sold as this is the Sitayan, right? Like, this is Sita's story. But I still felt that Ram was the main character of the Forest of Enchantments. The liberation of Sita, what it does is I feel that it finally puts Sita in the forefront. It finally puts other women also in the forefront, who are just like, who are not given enough importance in the Ramayana, and it finally gives them a voice. So it was just like, maybe because I read the Forest of Enchantments and it felt a bit meh for me, and then I read the Liberation of Sita and it gave me exactly what I wanted from the Forest of Enchantments, and that's why I really liked this book. But overall, I feel like this book does a great job of capturing the thoughts and emotions and feelings that these women felt. So yeah, definitely check out the Liberation of Sita if you like these sort of feminist retellings of mythology. The next book that I want to recommend is actually a trilogy of books, and that is the Devabhat Trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. This book is what I like to call as Game of Thrones meets genies. Basically, this is a socio-political drama set in this fantastical world where genies and marriages and all of these like mythological characters of like Middle Eastern inspired mythology, like where all of these characters live. And yeah, it's basically this political drama of who's going to be king. There is backstabbing, there is scheming, there is like so much politics and history involved, and it's all condensed into this one trilogy that is just beautifully written. Speaking of politics and war, the next book series that I want to recommend is the Poppy War series by R.F. Kuang. I still need to read the last book in this series. I really need to get to that. But it's been so long that I read the first 2 books that now I feel like I need to reread the entire series and then read the 3rd book. But this is basically an epic war military kind of story that is set in ancient China. What I liked about this book is just that it didn't shy away from becoming really dark. It's very dark, it's very gritty. There are a lot of historical aspects of this book that just seem very true. The politics in this book, the history in this book, the depictions of war in this book are so real and so gritty and so dark. And I like that the book didn't shy away from it. It actually shows the horrors of war, and just, yeah, it doesn't glorify war. It doesn't glorify these like magical abilities and whatever. It just makes them, even though you know that everything is fantastical and fantasy, it just makes them very gritty, very dark, and very real. So if you're prepared for that and you want a very politically driven, thrilling, like very raw and real kind of book, then definitely check out The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. And the last book that I want to talk about is Nessi by Susanna Clarke. Now, this is more of a dark academia kind of book with fantastical elements sort of sprinkled through it, but I still count this fantasy. I said this in like one of my previous videos that the lesser you know about this book, when you go into it, the better the experience is. So I won't talk about this book a lot, other than the fact that it follows our main character, Nessi, who is basically the master of this house, which is kind of like a labyrinth filled with marble, yeah, I couldn't think of the word, filled with marble sculptures. and like this sea which is in the basement. It's a very weird kind of house, and he is the master. And so this book basically follows Piranesi's life in this house, and you get to understand how Piranesi came to be the master of this house, and also whether Piranesi's life in this house is in danger and whether he needs to escape. That's all I'm going to say about this book. It is really, really beautifully written. The way the mystery kind of unfolds, because again, Piranesi is kind of like an unreliable narrator because he has lost his memories. And so, as the story kind of progresses and you get to know more about Piranesi's past and you get to know more about why he's in this house, you cannot put it down. It's beautifully written. I absolutely loved it. If you like art, if you like dark academia and you like fantasy, then definitely check out this book. You will absolutely love it. So yeah, that was my video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I gave 15 book recommendations to you guys, so I hope you have something, you have taken away something from this video, and I hope it helps you find the next fantasy book that you should read. If you like this video, then give it a big fat thumbs up. Leave a comment down below if you've read any of these books and let me know what you think about them. And of course, do subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.